feel today? Ask yourself this question.
What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Let's go! We made it! We made it! We made it! We made it! And let's go to the house! And let's go to the house!
When I step on the field, I send one message. And this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like.
Football is getting hit. That's it.
It's gonna be football now! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Let's hunt now! Let's hunt now! Let's go! Let's hunt! We made it! And let's go to the house! And let's go to the house!
We're talking about the Jets like we're talking about the Saints. You know, all this, how like we the Miami Heat of football. Yeah. The bottom line is you got to buckle up your chin strap.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Don't disrespect the game like that. There's too much crying from them.
He's a man. They can be hit just like us. He's a man.
You already make the big money.
He's a man.
Don't cry when you step on the field, man. That's war out there.
When I step on the field, I send one message. And this is what it feels like.
Oh, my bad. Your bad don't work in my world.
What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! We made it! And let's go to the house! And let's go to the house! It's a wrap. Game over.
Nah, this game is not over. It's just getting started right here on the lunch break. We're powered by JM&E, streaming live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3 TV. If you got a Roku streaming device, just download BS3 TV, and you're going to have access to all of the great shows that are in the network. And if you don't have a Roku streaming device, you're not left out. Just go to bs3network.com. That's BS3, the number 3, network.com. You can get in on it then. All right. Excuse me. I'm not sick. Just got allergies going on today. But, hey, it's the last day of February. And, man, is this year flying by already? We're about to get into March, which you know what that means. March Madness on the college basketball level for men and women. And, man, I'm ready. All that leading up to all roads heading here to Houston for the men's Final Four, all roads heading to Dallas for the women's Final Four, and the lunch break will be covering both. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, but I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, got a lot to talk about. The NFL draft, NFL Combine getting underway today. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of question marks surrounding some players that the Texans have an interest in, like quarterback Bryce Young, like quarterback CJ Stroud, and others. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. And then, of course, we will talk about the college basketball rankings heading into conference tournaments and all that kind of good stuff. Right now, not looking good for one of my teams. Yeah, I'm a broadcast journalist, but I'm also a fan of certain teams. I don't over-exaggerate them or anything like that. But, you know, as a fan, I kind of look at those teams and what they're doing. Not looking good for one of my teams repeating as a conference champ or making it to the NCAA March Madness tournament. So we'll talk about that as well. And got to remind you to go ahead and get your free account with CBSSports.com. That's CBSSports.com. Open up a free account using your email address and then wait on me to send you a link so that you can compete in the Lunch Break Weekly Basketball Challenge. Yep, keeping up with the Joneses Basketball Challenge. And it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Every year, it's a lot of fun. I'll never forget the year that Big Mike was winning. And I sent him a message like, bro, it looks like you're going to win. And sure enough, the championship game propelled someone over Big Mike. It's just, man, it comes down to the wire. And it's a lot of fun. And it's absolutely free. You get a chance to win $500 cash, absolutely free, courtesy of our sponsors. So all that taking place today. Again, it is a fast break edition. So lock in, get ready. Let's load it up and let's get ready to roll. Let me take my first break. I'll be right back with more right after this on the lunch break.
What do you get when you watch or listen to the Life Happens podcast? Well, I'll let them tell you.
Kim and I are both ministers of the gospel, and what Life Happens podcast is a beautiful balance by simply taking our spirituality with real life and merging it together to create a beautiful balance. And that's what we do.
BS3 Network proudly presents Life Happens podcast, where Christianity and life intersect. Live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. There's a 100% chance of a laugh thunderstorm. Four men with different viewpoints take a movie, show, or documentary and review it uncensored, unfiltered, uncompromised, with no holds barred. Join BS3, Wilkes, King Dog, and H-Rap B as they take on Hollywood their own way. BS3 Network proudly presents The Forecast, where H-Rap B always predicts,
if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it, get it from God.
live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
That's two of the great shows here on the BS3 network, and you can get in on them by downloading BS3 TV from your Roku streaming device. That's BS3 TV. And if you don't have a Roku streaming device, you got to get one. They're not expensive and they're great to have. But you can also go to the website at bs3network.com. BS, the number 3, network.com. Telling you, you're going to love those shows. And don't forget to check out the lunch break. All right, back on this Talk Your Team Tuesday. So the NFL Combine will get started today up in Indianapolis. I'm not a fan of the Combine. I'll just be honest, and I don't want to hear crap about woke. I'm so sick and tired of folks. Oh, that's a woke agenda. That's a woke. If you got to use woke that many times, you don't know what the hell it means. So good Lord. And if you really knew what it meant, you would shut up. You really would, because you're literally saying, I'd rather people just accept anything and everything that they have been told and been taught, even if it's wrong, even if it's not right. So again, I'm not a fan of the Combine for a lot of reasons. There's just too much film out there. There's too much availability out there for teams to need this one event to make their decision on players that they have watched since they were little kids. And if they have not watched them, then they can get in contact with people who have. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents, but here we go. It's another moneymaker for the NFL. Anyway, so there's a lot of question marks around certain players who are the tops in the drafts, like the quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks are projected to be in the first round. I think a total of 4 are projected to be first rounders. So there's questions on how tall they are, how big their hands are, and if they're going to throw during the Combine. Houston Texans are looking for one of those top quarterbacks with the number 2 pick in the draft. There are teams that literally want to trade with the Bears for that number 1 spot so they can get ahead of Houston and get one of those quarterbacks, just in case Houston is going to select their choice at quarterback. So there's a lot of questions surrounding that will be answered today. One of them is Bryce Young out of Alabama. Bryce Young has been phenomenal in college. I mean, mind-blowing in college. That young man finds a way. I mean, literally finds a way. And he's got the talent, the arm talent. But the question is, does he have the size? And published reports saying he's coming in at 5'10 and a half, which makes Bryce Young shorter than me. And I'm definitely not quarterback size, right at 6 feet. So Bryce Young at 5'10 and a half would make him one of the shorter quarterbacks in the NFL. But there are some short quarterbacks that have had great success. Russell Wilson at 5'11", Drew Brees at 5'10 or under, Kyler Murray. And I don't want to hear your comments on Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray is a playmaker. Shady McCoy, bruh, get a life. Leave Kyler Murray and and Eric Bieniemy alone, man, whatever they did, show us on the doll where they touched you, because you, bro, got real serious problems. I digress. So there are other quarterbacks in the league that have done well and not having the 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" height range. So, again, I don't think that hurts him, but there are some teams that just prefer a taller quarterback for a number of reasons. So that's going to be of interest. Also, Bryce Young reportedly is not going to throw during the combine. So, again, I get why he's not going to throw, and I get those who want him to throw. But, again, this is this young man's future. And just because the NFL says we're going to have this big scouting combine, and we're going to ask you questions, and we're going to measure you, and we're going to look at your medicals, and we're going to, take you through different, ideological tests and IQ tests and things like that. Bryce Young controls his destiny. Bryce Young has reportedly decided he's not going to throw during the combine with receivers that he doesn't know, with routes and everything that they decide. Bryce Young is going to allow his folks to set up a pro day or be a part of the Alabama pro day. There's going to be a number of players there that will be looking to capture the eye of NFL scouts and teams. And I'll just throw this out there real quick before I take my next break. When you're that good, yeah, they'll come to you. When you're that good, yeah, you can show up in Indian, with the head nod. Yo, what's up? Yo, what's up? Is that Bryce Young? Yeah. Oh, okay. He looks like he's 5'11". You can do that. You can do that. If you're somebody who's not that good, then yeah, you better get your butt to the combine, to the rebind, to the no bind, and do whatever they ask you to do. But Bryce Young has earned that right with his play at Alabama to have them come to him. The Alabama Pro Day is going to be one of the most well-attended days. I guarantee you there'll be 32 team representatives at that day, and many of them will be head coaches and or general managers. So I'm not mad at Bryce Young for making that decision. Okay, let me take a break. I'll come back and we'll talk about the other quarterbacks as well on the lunch break, powered by JM&E, streaming live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3 TV.
This is a BS3 network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and say face.
What brings a smile to my face is the one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations. This is a BS3 network presentation. Politics.
They'll write the law, but they'll enforce it differently. Is that going to apply both ways?
Religion.
God never said that we can't reason together. Matter of fact, he said, let us sit and reason together.
Relationship.
I believe that everybody wants and needs somebody.
From a man's perspective.
They say, girls, if I put some polish on that and get him to buy some different clothes, girl, he could be a winner chicken dinner.
Join the thought engineer.
There's nothing wrong with me developing my piece and you developing your piece, but understand the goal is to come together.
And comedian John Yogi.
Negro, I don't need you putting on no chapstick up there in the pulpit. You do that over there in your chair.
Get ready for
Man Talk Monday. Woo!
Live every Monday at 7 p.m. Central.
And last night was no exception with Man Talk Monday. And I got to tell you, I got a chance to talk with John Yogi on a conference call with the BS3 family last week. And man, let me tell you something. I told him, man, I was heading up to the pulpit. My mouth was dry. I had to go sit back down and get my mouth right before I get up there because of him. So anyway, great show. Man Talk Monday is a great show. And I want you to tune in. How do you do that? You get a Roku streaming device and download BS3 TV. Download BS3 TV or go to the website, bs3network.com. That's bs3network.com. We're changing the way you watch TV. All right, been talking a little bit about the combine, who's going to throw, who's not going to throw. We already said Bryce Young out of Alabama. They're going to be measuring him. How tall is he? Hand size, that kind of thing. Might even look at the speed if he's willing to run a 40-yard dash, but everything else that's important is going to happen during the Alabama Pro Day. C.J. Stroud is reportedly ranked number 2 quarterback coming out of the draft, and he is out of The Ohio State University. C.J. Stroud, on the other hand, is apparently going to throw during the combine. So he will work out, do the measurables, do the things, the hand size test and all that. And then he is planning to throw during the NFL combine. And I got to tell you, if I'm Nick Caserio for the Houston Texans, if I'm the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, heck, if I'm the general manager of the Carolina Panthers, that's a young man that I really want to take a look at. That's a young man that if I got to jump up to that number 1 spot with the Bears and get somebody, C.J. Stroud, for me, would be the number 1 pick, because there's no question about his size. There's no question about his arm strength, speed. I don't expect him to clock a 4.4, 4.3, nothing like that. He's got good feet. He's not a statue. Bill Belichick, he's not a statue. So I would definitely be okay if the Houston Texans, New Orleans, Carolina, those teams like that, the Jets, Jets, what y'all got in trade capital, get that number 1 spot from the Bears, and C.J. Stroud is looking real good. All right, another quarterback that is high on the list. In fact, they've got him probably at number 4. Number 4 is Anthony Richardson out of Florida. Now, a lot of attention is going to be around him because of the injury that he suffered last season with Florida. A lot of folks are going to be looking at that knee and medical records and stuff like that. But as far as height, as far as arm strength, hand size, I don't believe there are going to be any problems there. And I believe Richardson is going to throw during the combine. So again, there's a quarterback that could fall to a Carolina. There's a quarterback that could go, to the Jets if they decide to move up, maybe not to number 1, but to number 4, number 5, somewhere in there. And then there is the young man out of Kentucky, Will Levis, who, hey, listen, Will did some good things at the UK in the toughest college football, one of the toughest college football divisions, the SEC. And Will Levis is projected to be the 3rd quarterback off the board. Number 1 is supposedly going to be Bryce Young. That's arguable. Number 2 is reportedly going to be C.J. Stroud. Number 3 is reportedly going to be Will Levis. And again, if you're Carolina, there's a young man that you got to take a look at. You got to realize he played in some different environments and some different conditions in Kentucky. Played in some different conditions in Kentucky. It wasn't always sunny in Florida like. It was, cold and a little windy, cold and rainy, cold and snowy. So Will Levis, has some upside because of the different conditions he played in Lexington. So there you go. Those are your top 4 quarterbacks. And you've got several teams that need a franchise potential quarterback. The Houston Texans definitely need. The Chicago Bears reportedly are going to talk with the quarterbacks, but I believe that they're going to stick and stay with Justin Fields. If I'm the Chicago Bears, for all you Bears fan out there, get that offensive line right. Get that offensive line stout, like you saw out of Kansas City, like you saw with Philadelphia, like, the Cowboys have. Get that offensive line right where you can run the ball and you can give him time to throw the ball. A lot of folks are forgetting that Justin Fields was one of the most accurate quarterbacks coming out of The Ohio State University. In fact, I had a guy on the show that, listen, this brother was like, oh, yeah, he's more of a running quarterback. He was not that in college. He's turned into that in the NFL, but he was not that in college. And I know because I watched almost every single game that he played in at The Ohio State University, unlike many down here. Many are focusing on UT, focusing on Alabama, focusing on LSU, focusing on A&M, schools like that. But I can honestly tell you, I kept an eye on Justin Fields. So fix that offensive line. Let that young man cook in the pocket. Let that young man, cook with his legs, and you got something special going on in Chicago. Carolina, got to get a quarterback. And There are a couple of free agent quarterbacks out there. Reportedly, a number of teams are going to talk with Derek Carr during the combine. Derek Carr is one of the better options as a veteran play caller and passer, cerebral. You know, again, he didn't have a whole lot of weapons in Las Vegas. He did have last season. I don't know what happened with him last season because, you know, when you got that type of receiving core and that type of running game, then you ought to have something going on. All right, so running backs. There are going to be some running backs that will be participating during the draft, the combine as well. Bijan Robinson is one that is reportedly going to work out. I've always said that Bijan Robinson is going to be a top pick in the draft, a potential first rounder. Bijan Robinson is reportedly going to do all the workout drills at the combine. And then the young man out of University of Alabama, Dwayne McBride. Dwayne McBride was the NCAA's leading rusher this past season, 1,700 plus yards, 19 touchdowns on 233 attempts. He will not participate in any of the combine drills, but I trust and believe that he's going to do all his work during the pro day next month. And then there are going to be some edge rushers that will be very, very highly coveted in the combine. So that's where we'll get there. One more break, talk basketball, wrap it up after this on the lunch break, powered by JM&E, streaming live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3 TV.
Of course, Steph Curry, Tim Anderson, Jordan Alvarez. And it's caught! Deebo Samuel with the catch. Michael Jordan can sense it.
The Fro just got the king.
BS3 Network.
The hottest of hot takes. The coldest of cold, hard facts. This is Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson. Weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
Big shout out to my brother Brian Snowden from Snowman in the Morning. I'm sure he got it in earlier today and tonight, man. You got to check out the Queen 3 and King podcast. Now, when you get on there tonight, be sure and wish Mika a happy belated birthday. Yesterday was her birthday. Queen, happy birthday to you from your big brother, AJ, over here at the lunch break. You know, I love, respect, and appreciate you. Now, don't be out there twerking. Don't be out there twerking, because that girl said she'd get a twerk in it wherever she feel like it. So happy belated birthday to you, Mika. Hope you had a great day yesterday. All right, real quick, let's talk about the NCAA March Madness coming up. University of Houston, once again, the number one team. They wrapped up the American Athletic Conference with a nice win over East Carolina. I think they won by almost 30. And right now they're 27-2. They are going to be a number one seed. But the question is, will they be the overall number one seed? And most folks say no. Most folks give it to the number two team in the country right now, Alabama. And I got to tell you, Alabama has so much controversy going on right now. They might be one of the top seeds. They're definitely going to be a number one. They still have the SEC conference tournament to go through. I have a feeling that all this off the court stuff with their number one player, Mr. Miller, man, that stuff is hard to just kind of insulate yourself from. And they might find out, man, that the NCAA March Madness tournament is going to be a little too much for them to have leaks. And I'm not talking about leaks as far as information. I'm talking about leaks as far as where outside talk and chatter and all of that can come in. I know it's them against the world in their minds, but let me tell you, the March Madness tournament is a pressure cooker. The conference tournament is a pressure cooker. And if they stumble in that conference tournament, or if they stumble in the March Madness tournament, man, listen, all of that could be for naught. And there's still no guarantee that some legal entity or the family could bring other charges or file civil charges against this young man, and that derail the whole thing. There might be pressure on the league, on the SEC. There might be pressure on the school to do some things that they don't want to do. They want to just kind of, fly under the radar and just be a good basketball team. But, they are a team that I feel like there might be a little too much on them for them to go deep into the run. We'll see. They are reportedly going to be the number one seed. Houston is going to be number 2. Number 3 right now in the country is Kansas. They will be a number 1 seed. And then right now, number 4 is in question. Will it be UCLA? Will it be Purdue? All right. UCLA 25-4. Purdue 24-5. Purdue has been one of the top teams all year long. Just stumbled a little bit lately. But it's going to be very interesting. One of those 2 teams will take the final number 1 seed. And then, of course, you got teams who will fall into that number 2 spot, number 2 seed. But it's going to be very interesting. These conference tournaments that are about to come up are going to be very, very interesting. Who will stumble? Who will get through? Remember, Houston's got a couple of losses inside of their own conference. But, man, they are a beast on the road and at home. So we'll see how they do. But March Madness is going to be very, very interesting. All right, so that's that. Let me get over to the women's rankings right now, because, boy, there were some great games this weekend. And I got to tell you, man, women's college basketball is on fire. South Carolina is the number one. There ain't no question about it. I don't give a damn with what LSU's record is. South Carolina has beaten all comers and all ranked opponents that they played on the road, at home. Some of them been closer than they wanted them to be, but South Carolina has gotten it done. Indiana suffered a crazy loss this weekend to Iowa on a last-second 3. And, man, I tell you what, I felt bad for Indiana, but you got to love Iowa, the way they pulled it out. They ran a phenomenal play that got their star shooter open, and I think she's got 3 3-point buzzer beaters for victories this season. So, man, you can't be mad when a young lady is clutch like that. So, great win by Iowa, but it did not knock Indiana out of the number 2 spot because Utah lost. Because Utah won, Stanford lost. That's what happened. Utah beat Stanford. So Indiana stayed number 2. Utah has moved up to number 3. And then there's LSU with their little weak schedule. I'm interested to see how they do in the SEC tournament on their side, and then where they will end up in the rankings. Again, all roads go through South Carolina in the SEC. So number 1 seeds right now, looking at South Carolina, Indiana, Utah, and more than likely it's going to be either Maryland or Stanford. Iowa, man, I got to tell you, they should be in the discussion for one of the top seeds, 2nd level, 3rd level, somewhere around there. All right, so that's what we got there. Let me look real quick in the SWAC standings. I got to cover the SWAC because I love them, and that's what that looks like. On the women's side, you got Jackson State with only 1 loss in conference. They're 15-1. They have locked up the women's championship, regular season championship. Alabama State at 12-4. Alabama A&M at 11-5, and then you got Prairie View right there at 11-6. During the SWAC tournament, again, I expect Jackson State to get through and get to the NCAA March Madness. On the women's side, we'll stay there while I'm there. The MEAC. Norfolk State is looking like they've got that wrapped up. They got a 2-game lead in the conference over Morgan State, Howard, and then North Carolina Central. All of those 4 have winning records heading into their conference championship. Norfolk State could be the other HBCU to get a play-in into the March Madness tournament on the women's side. Again, I'll be covering that in Dallas. Let's go to the men's side. And look at the SWAC rankings, Grambling is right now tied with Alcorn for the number 1 spot in the SWAC, followed by Southern, Jackson State. Texas Southern is right on the cusp. They only take the top 8 teams. And right now, you got Grambling, Alcorn, Southern, Jackson State, Alabama A&M, Prairie View, and then you got Texas Southern right there on the cusp. I don't know if they're the team that can do what they did last year, win the SWAC championship and then make it to the NCAA March Madness and then go on a little bit of run. I don't know if they can do that this year. We'll see. But again, right now they're in danger of missing the SWAC tournament if they suffer, any more losses. So let's go to the MEAC. Howard is the team to beat there, followed by Norfolk State, followed by North Central, followed by Maryland East Shore. Those are the top 4 teams heading into the conference tournament for the MEAC. All right. Hey, listen, before I go, let me give you a little Black history information that you probably don't know. Some of you might, but some of you don't. And then I got to get out here. On this day of Black history, we celebrate Jarvis Christian University. JCU is a private HBCU in Wood County, Texas, founded back in 1912. Jarvis Christian is the only HBCU which remains of 12 founded by the Disciples of Christ Church. Jarvis Christian had a college football team which competed from 1910 until it ended in 1964, and they were even led by Hall of Fame coach Ace Munford back in 1924 to 1926, and then Lou Cruz from 1957 to 1959. Jarvis Christian Bulldogs have appeared in the NAIA Men's Division I basketball tournament 3 times, and their women's track and field team won the conference championship back in 2021. On this day in Black history, we celebrate Jarvis Christian University. Listen, I got to get ready to go. Y'all know me. Always, I want to be not this, but this. Let's not be divided. Let's be united. I truly do love you. And there's nothing you can do about it except tune in tomorrow for Winning Wednesday. And we'll start talking about that March Madness, Keeping Up with the Joneses challenge right here on the lunch break. Y'all take care. We'll talk to you soon.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. Today is Tuesday, the last day of the month, February 28th, 2023. Woo, flew by. Number 1. On February 22nd, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, Scott Adams, described black people as members of a hate group and that white people should get away on his YouTube show, Real Coffee with Scott Adams. As you can imagine, the repercussions have come down as dozens of papers have said they would cease to publish Dilbert. The strip, which makes fun of office culture, first appeared in 1989. Adams referenced a Rasmussen report survey that asked whether people agreed with the statement, "It's okay to be white." Most agreed, but Adams noted that 26% of black respondents disagreed and others weren't sure. Number 2, Sunday was the 10th anniversary of the murder of Trayvon Martin. Trayvon was fatally shot by George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer who claimed to have shot the unarmed 17-year-old out of self-defense during a physical altercation. Police initially opted not to arrest Zimmerman. The case sparked protests and ignited national debates about racial profiling and self-defense laws. Zimmerman later was charged with second-degree murder, but in a high-profile trial that riveted America, he was acquitted of the charge against him. The term Black Lives Matter was then used for the first time by organizer Alicia Garza in a July 13, 2013 Facebook post in response to Zimmerman's acquittal. Number 3, if you get health care coverage through Medicaid, you might be at risk of losing that coverage over the next year. At the beginning of the pandemic, the federal government prohibited states from kicking people off of Medicaid. Before the pandemic, people would regularly lose their Medicaid coverage if they no longer qualified, for example, making too much money. That all stopped once COVID-19 started spreading across the country. Over the next year, states will be required to start checking the eligibility again of every person who is on Medicaid. People will have to fill out forms to verify their personal information, including address, income, and household size. Number 4, A 22-year-old white former student at the University of Kentucky allegedly caught on camera physically and racially verbally attacking a black student employee on campus has been criminally indicted on 6 counts that she was initially facing. A grand jury in Fayette County returned indictments against Sophia Rosing on 3 counts of 4th-degree assault, among other charges. Rosing has pleaded not guilty to all the charges against her. This incident occurred when a visibly drunk Rosing entered Boyd Hall in the early morning hours November 2nd of last year and began verbally berating a black student employee who was working behind the desk. Number 5, tax payment is an unavoidable part of many citizens' lives. If you're not able to pay the tax you owe by your original filing due date, the balance is subject to interest and a monthly late payment penalty. Remember, it's always in your best interest to pay in full as soon as you can so that you can minimize that additional charge. Our CPA, Katrina M. Kraft, tells us different ways to pay your taxes without paying it in full right away in the What You Need to Know newsletter. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. If God's grace is sufficient, you can be gentle with yourself. Join me today live on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central with my guys, comedian Damon Williams and producer Ahmed Gordon, as we discuss today's top headlines and more. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed, be empowered.
BS3 Network. Changing the way you watch TV.